The scent of varnished wood and sweat has never left me. It clings to my memory like a stain, even after all these years. Each time I think about that night, I feel again the cool air of the old Midtown auditorium settling uncomfortably under my black dress shirt. Stage lights burned against my vision, blinding and alien, but I'd built myself up for that moment. I believed I was ready. Until the first sharp note trembled and shattered, and it all fell apart. I was 16. The third student to perform that evening's music juries, and the pressure spoke through the halls in whispers and nervous coughs. I sat waiting as quick, nimble fingers did their rehearsed magic. My own hands sweated, slipping over the keys outside my pocket as I ran through patterns only I could see. Patterns in the music and in the data beneath it. In the weeks before, I'd been obsessed with mapping musical phrasing to sequences and charts, convinced the piece lived as much in the logic as the emotion. My teacher called it nonsense and said I ought to feel instead of think. Still, my mind kept building patterns, a song inside the song. When my turn came, I stood, palms sticky, knees stiff. Every face in the front row waited for either transcendence or disaster. I greeted the jury, sat on the bench, and touched the first key. The piece began easily enough, Haydn Sonata in E-flat, but my mind roamed to where the trills formed symmetrical valleys in the visualizations I made late at night. Instead of trusting my hands, I hovered anxiously in the thought and the measures slipped from me. My left hand faltered. My breathing spiked. I hit a note out of order, jarred and loud. The sound crashed through the room. There was the smallest snicker from the right, Celia Bennett, cellist and local star. My head flooded with heat. I tried to recover, but more mistakes followed, notes tumbling like marbles across the hardwood floor. Faces blurred. The judge with red glasses leaned forward, unimpressed. My teacher looked away. I heard my mother sigh from the third row. The trickle of shame began low and inevitable, rising up to choke the artistry right out of me. By the last phrase, my vision damp with tears I wouldn't let fall, I lost the final chord entirely. A terrible silence spread. Someone coughed, pitying. I stood, bowed without confidence, and shuffled off as if I could disappear. No applause, not even from my mother. Backstage, the sound of other children's laughter was cruel and sharp. I tried to hide in the corridor outside, but Celia followed with her twin, Michael, grinning conspirators. "Guess your little maps didn't help, huh?" Michael's voice teased, smooth and careless, as he flicked my folder onto the marbled floor. Printouts, data patterns, color-coded bars rained across the tiles. "Data's good for geeks, maybe, but not musicians," Celia sneered. "You know, normal people just listen." I said nothing, picking up my scattered secrets. I'd always cared about music, but in my hands, the magic was tangled up in numbers. Melodies as probability spaces, harmonies as organic algorithms. I thought, possibly naively, there was beauty in the patterns. No one else did. "Want my advice?" Celia offered grandly. "Don't embarrass yourself next year." I nodded, holding my papers. Their laughter followed as I fled into the bathroom, hiding in the last stall, heart pounding with humiliation. In that moment, I felt everything I loved collapse. Alone, with no protection except my ridiculous, compounded dreams. At home, echoes of my failure traveled ahead of me. My mother prepared dinner with the TV playing softly, the kitchen light too harsh for her tired eyes. My brother watched a basketball game in the living room. His friends scattered around with pizza boxes and easy jokes. "Back so soon?" she said, not quite meeting my gaze. I bit back the urge to explain. I didn't pass, made a lot of mistakes. My voice sounded distant, as though it belonged to someone else. She turned from the stove, concern flickering in her look. If you spend half as much time practicing as you do with those charts, maybe you'd do better. There wasn't cruelty in it, just resignation, as if she was coaching me to cut my losses. Dad came in, shaking off his raincoat. Your uncle says the city civil service has openings. Maybe you should look at something practical, yeah? I mumbled an answer, but already felt myself shrinking, the house closing in. They didn't mean harm. But what could I say? That the music made sense when I saw it, not just heard it? That I was trying to find a logic to something everyone else insisted was chaos and heart? No one understood. I made myself smaller, dreams folding inward. That night, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I scribbled in my notebook, charting my embarrassment. I marked it down. The first proof failure, merciless and clear. Years passed. I abandoned the piano, unable to scrub off the shame stamped onto my music. High school ended with muted smiles. I drifted through college entry forms, picking a major at random, statistics, not out of passion, but out of numb momentum. I found comfort in the routine of data, in the surety of numbers. Charts behaved when you shaped them right. They didn't judge or laugh or sigh. At university in the city, I wandered into a seminar about pattern recognition, and suddenly the old obsession flooded back with new power. It didn't matter if it was jazz solos or climate tables or subway usage data. There was beauty in the pattern if you cared to look. I spent hours feeding reams of information into visualization programs, discovering color and form in the predicates, sound and structure in the randomness. My coursework lagged. My friends called me a hermit. But alone, I built. I coded after midnight, mapping stock market fluctuations as rolling velvet landscapes, rendering election cycles as pulsing neon timelines. The work was obsessive. In it, I claimed freedom, no approval needed, no jury to fail in front of. During my sophomore year, naive optimism clutching at my heels, I applied to every data science internship in Manhattan. Most ignored me. Several, when I sent examples of my art, rendered maps of subway lines as musical keys, rainfall graphs as visual sculptures, replied back with confusion, as if I'd misread the field. One wrote, "Not sure data art is a real thing." Good luck. Still, I kept creating. Because when it worked, when I'd shaped a narrative out of impossible numbers, tension became symmetry, chaos became color, and for a moment, the confusion of my life made sense. After graduation, rent nipped at my heels. My parents repeated their old advice: find something stable. I took a job coding business dashboards, pie charts in muted blues, bar graphs in conservative grays. During the day, I built what bosses requested, but at night, I built for myself. I joined a small circle of rogue data artists, online weirdos, passionate about transforming raw numbers into visual stories. We met at an East Village bar once a month, calling ourselves patternists. Over dimmed lights and cheap gin, we argued about whether data-driven art could move the soul or if it was just the hallucination of disconnected nerds. For a long time, it felt like the world agreed with the latter. My own family reliably still laughed when I described my work. "But what do you do?" my uncle asked at Thanksgiving, between mouthfuls of sweet potato pie. "I build narratives with data," I tried. "Art pieces that show patterns, make people feel the stats." He rolled his eyes. "Pictures, right? For whose fridge?" my brother chimed in. "Data art? Like what, pie charts with rainbows?" They meant no harm, but their voices still cut deep. Each time, I returned to Manhattan's hive of lights, with my mouth zipped tight, shame picking at my ribs. In a rare, unguarded moment, I submitted one of my pieces, a looping animation of East River tides mapped to Chopin's nocturnes, coded to flow and recede with sampled violin, to an open call from the Modern Art Initiative. I didn't expect an answer. I almost deleted the submission, then let it linger, forgotten behind browser tabs and spams. A month later, an unfamiliar number woke me, a voice from the initiative, explaining I'd been selected for their New Currents show. My piece would be projected in the front gallery for a month. "We want you to talk about the algorithms behind it," said the curator, her voice bright. "How you found the shape in the data." Numb with disbelief, I agreed. When I hung up, I laughed out loud, the sound startlingly unfamiliar, raw as broken glass. That night I called my mother, hesitant, heart praying for approval. She was quiet, then asked, "People pay to see this?" I said yes. She congratulated me, if mechanically, and promised to tell my aunts. I invited her to the show, with Dad and my brother. After hanging up, I wondered if she'd really come. The opening was a blur. Hipsters with blue hair arguing about interface, an old professor finding bandwagon pride, press people taking notes. My name was printed on the wall, high under the glare of gallery lights. The tide animation looped across a 20-foot screen. The sound flickered, Chopin phrases swelling and fading in time with the river data, a hidden logic surfacing as a delicate rainbow ripple. It wasn't music exactly, but it invited you to listen visually, swim in the